Hello from North Carolina, and welcome to our 14th episode, if you can believe it, of the Rundown. I am going to be a little bit off today, to be perfectly honest. I am getting a little fancy today. So you may have noticed that there's a new background, some new features here. So I am going to feel a bit like a pilot in the cockpit as I try and navigate all of this stuff here. So please bear with me. But again, thank you for joining. This is our 14th live session. Our plan is to go live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to share industry news from the previous week. And if you're a team replay, great. If you're joining us live, please drop a comment and let us know that you are joining us. Just to let you know also, there's a little bit of a delay. So I think there's about a 30-second delay with comments. So if you do share a comment, just know that there's a little bit of a delay. I am also going to try and bring up the comments on the screen, so I won't have to be giving too much side eye as I go through all of the information that I have to share today. Speaking of, I'm going to, again, get a little bit fancy here. So I am, hopefully you guys can see my screen here. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rosalina Cruz. I am the founder, Chief Business Development Officer of the ASOR Collective, where we help underrepresented leaders in fashion with strategic planning and advising. Our mission is to support a more diverse and inclusive, sustainable fashion industry by filling in the leadership and ownership gaps in the apparel supply chain. So on these lives, I try to reconcile my love of fashion and retail with my values around sustainability, diversity, and inclusion, and advocate for supply chain while raising buyer awareness, which can be tough. But really what the goal is to get out of sort of the silo effect of communication and be able to work across industries within the supply chain. So I know that one of the things that I do try to do on these lives is speak my truth, right? And share information. I feel like this is a tricky thing to do. And I've talked about how I have been actively practicing, right? Calling people in versus calling people out. But one of the things that's really tricky to do is to speak your truth, right? Whether it fills the room or clears it out, right? And obviously we don't want to clear out any rooms, but I also want to acknowledge that sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes that happens. So I'm going to go to the next slide here because you guys know that I love a good agenda. So in our time together, I try to cover North Carolina news. And I'm just looking at LinkedIn, and it looks like we haven't quite gone live there, but hopefully it will catch up soon. But in our time together, I try to cover North Carolina news. You guys know that North Carolina is one of the #1 textile producing states, or the #1 textile producing state in the US. Cover product, service, workforce, and the green carpet. And the green carpet is really where I take a deeper dive into brands, concepts, and processes that are being called to the proverbial carpet. And again, this can be a little bit challenging. I know that within the fashion industry, there are a tremendous amount of ethical dilemmas. And one of the things that I try to do is create space for people to come together. So having said that, let's get into it. And again, I'm gonna go. I'm looking here at LinkedIn, and it is not live. But again, you guys may be catching this on the replay. So I'm just gonna do a little clicking around here. Let's see. Hopefully, yes. Looks like we are live. Yay! Awesome. Okay, I think we're finally got it together here. So announcements. Not too many announcements, really just one. But in February, I'm going to be hosting another executive roundtable, which I'm super excited about. Last month's roundtable was really focusing on sort of recapping the previous year's a business and also kind of looking forward to 2022, whereas the February executive roundtable is going to be focused more on leveraging export opportunities for made in the USA products. So I am super excited about that. Let's make sure. Going to the next slide here. North Carolina news. All right, so we got a bit of North Carolina news. Some of you who are following the ASOR Collective business page on LinkedIn probably saw this post last week. If you aren't, please follow us. I would appreciate the support. So White Oak Denim Mill, which is based in Greensboro, North Carolina, they are actually going to be offering a Denim 101 event. And this is actually a 2-day training on the history of denim and also how denim is made. So yay, super excited about that. Also, here, let's see if we got any comments here. Also in North Carolina news, North Carolina news, final tally, 2021 was a record-breaking year for economic development. In 2021, more than $10 billion of capital investment happened in the state of North Carolina, and there were 24,200 new jobs announced statewide, and that includes a $1.2 billion investment in rural development. And also that created 3,200 new jobs in rural North Carolina. So yay. I also wanted to share, and this is like the power of LinkedIn. I absolutely love this, but there is a company that is based in Winston-Salem. I don't know why I put it in there. But Inmar Intelligence is based in Winston-Salem, and maybe I will not be able to pronounce that right. Winston-Salem. But so one of the things that I found out that they do is they actually work with brands and companies around returns and do a lot of, offer a lot of services to keep returns out of the landfills. I believe they were saying that they are actually able to keep about 99% of returns out of the landfills. So they either go through a process of inspecting garments and that sort of thing so it can go back and be commerce ready. Or, you know, if it goes into secondhand markets, gets recycled, that sort of thing. So that was really exciting to find out about another great company in North Carolina that's doing some amazing work and having an impact on the sustainable apparel industry. So yay for in our intelligence. Also, this was really, really fun. But so there in North Carolina, it's actually in Hildebrand, North Carolina, which is just outside of Hickory. But there is a former textile mill village that's called Henry River Manufacturing Company. And I need a little tissue here. My nose is starting to drip. Of course, no tissues. Oh, well. Oh, well, guys. Um, all right, I'm back. So they're based in Hildebrand, North Carolina, a former textile mill. It was actually featured in Hunger Games. So District 12 from Hunger Games was actually filmed at the Henry River Manufacturing Company. And they opened their doors in 1905. And initially, when they opened, they actually had 35 worker houses and a two-story boarding house. And they had a brick company store. It was all powered by water dam. I don't know what the technical term is for that, but it was all, I guess, hydropowered. So that was really interesting, and they actually produced cotton yarn. So they were also featured on a couple of home improvement shows, and you can actually rent one of these former worker houses to stay. So that is really interesting. And I feel like when I finally get out to the western part of North Carolina, I'm going to have to spend 2 weeks out there because there's so many people that I want to see. And also things that I want to do. So I'm definitely adding this to the list. I also want to thank the Piedmont Fiber Shed for my little package. I am sponsored of the Piedmont Fiber Shed, and they sent me a little thank you package, which had a bunch of little things from their members. I got like a nice little cotton bowl. And it's funny because I don't know if everybody who's watching knows this, but obviously I have been in the industry since I was 15, so about 30 years. But since moving to North Carolina in 2017, I have really deepened my connection to the domestic apparel supply chain and specifically cotton. So it was really nice, even though I, interact with cotton almost on a daily basis. I feel like this is the first time that I was able to, I don't know, I picked this cotton out of the bowl and I have just been playing with it and fussing with it and just like admiring how beautiful and soft it is. This cotton actually came from the Burleson Farm in North Carolina, which is also where TS Design and Solid, or actually more Solid State, the cotton for the Solid State t-shirt came from. And for those of you who don't know, they did a 10,000 pound cotton project where they actually were able to make a cotton t-shirt that was completely sourced in completely produced actually in North and South Carolina. So that was interesting. So I've been playing around. I got my little cotton here. I got my little bowl and my little cotton seeds, which are so, so cute. Cotton seed. You can see these. But these are actually one of the things that I learned when visiting the Burleson Farm and watching actually this cotton get gin is that these little But your cotton seeds are like M&Ms for cows. They love it, and they love snacking on that. So I got that. I got a little skein of yarn here, another little skein of mohair yarn, which is so sweet, some fabric, and also some hemp too, all from North Carolina. So that was a sweet, sweet little package that I really loved getting from them. So industry news, and hopefully, again, I'm gonna make sure that this switch. Yes, we are at industry news. Perfect. So industry news. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, I wanted to say so. There is a new cotton report that came out. I did not post this on the page, but I probably should post this on the business page. Um, the Cotton Advisory Committee released a 24-page report just talking about the efforts of researchers to provide a clear picture of cotton's greenhouse gas and emissions, which has been, and its ability to sequester carbon, which has been a bit of a challenge. So if you are interested in learning more about that, please check out that report or send me a message, and I will be sure to send you a copy of that. Also in industry news, Remake created a frequently asked questions document about the New York Fashion Act, which we've talked about that on a couple of different episodes. And another thing that's happening is the worldwide talks are happening. I believe that's coming up very shortly. I'll have the exact date for you on that, but that is hosted by Fashion Innovation. That is going to be a virtual event. So regardless of where you are able to join, which is very exciting. And on product news, so there was a limited edition actually just got released last week. It was a 200 pair of limited edition Louis Vuitton and Nike sneakers, which will be or were auctioned off by Sotheby's. And this is actually, I believe it was a design by Virgil Abloh. And the benefits, all of the proceeds from this are going to benefit his scholarship fund, which supports education around promising students of Black and American African descent. So that is really cool. And I think next time, right? I'm working on my visuals here. So next time, maybe I'll be sure to add some visuals of that, because they were some really, really cool looking sneakers. All right. So in service news, TerraCycle, which we mentioned last week, they were celebrating their 19th birthday. And again, I'm freestyling here. But from what I recall, TerraCycle is a company that that works with brands and other companies to recycle unrecyclable products. So you can go to their website and find information on products that can't be recycled, whether it's makeup containers or packaging and that sort of thing. So they have actually partnered with Parade, which is a startup underwear brand, but they are partnering with Parade to recycle underwears. And so one interesting statistic is that 11 million pounds of underwear end up in the landfills on a daily basis, right? So most underwears are made up of synthetic materials. So when they break down, they end up polluting our waterways with microplastics and stuff like that. So yay for that partnership with TerraCycle and Parade to keep underwear out of out of landfill. So that is super exciting. Um, Also in workforce news, so there was an article that came out in Forbes about how the article was called "Could Living Wages Help Solve Fashion's Climate Crisis?" New research says yes. So I'm going to take a sip of my water here. So I haven't done that in a minute. And thank you for those of you who are joining live. Please drop a comment and let us know you're here and where you are joining from. Nice little sip there. Okay, so the article talks about how garment workers are overlooked and how labor holds the key to social and environmental sustainability and can have direct benefits on climate change. So that was really exciting. Last week, I actually attended a workshop. It was more of an information session about Pencil and CSS, which is the College for Creative Studies. They are based in Michigan, I believe actually in Detroit. But in any case, one of the things that I like is that they are actually partnering to reopen a closed historically Black university in Detroit. And they Pencil is like a sneaker academy. It is run by and started by a former shoe designer at Nike. And great story, great guy. It has been interesting to see all of the incredible investment in this business here. But one of the things that I really wanted to kind of call out is that they have a different approach to learning, and they actually talked about kind of how higher education has sort of been a little bit of a letdown and hasn't done all that they can to sort of level the playing field. But one of the things that they offer in their program is what's called stackable certificates, which I had never heard of, but essentially you can take courses, get these certificates, but these certificates are actually paths towards a degree, which was really great. And the other thing that I really appreciate about the work that these organizations are doing is that they are also seeing a huge influx of students who are looking for second career paths, people of all different ages. So I am really, really excited to see more of the great work that comes from both Pencil and CSS. And I will also share some information on there. Also in workforce news, I don't know if it's just my algorithm, but I have been seeing a lot of information, or a hashtag actually on LinkedIn called I Am Professional, and there have been some really, really incredibly like moving posts. I have a really hard time with the word professional. I just feel like to me it's a little bit of a dirty word, and I think that and some people are probably like scratching their heads. But one of the things that I found is that oftentimes when people are telling you to assimilate, they're telling you you're not being professional. So that's sort of my troubles with that word. And it's interesting. I urge you guys to follow this hashtag, but there's some really, really great stories about people who aren't assimilating, right? And yet are still professional. So I wanted to call that out. Another thing that I was seeing sort of in my news feed, and I can't remember if this was pulled from a particular article or was just sort of like the essence of what was being said by multiple people. But I just have this point here around there isn't a labor shortage, the shortage is really around companies who are willing to pay a living wage. So I thought that that was another interesting point around the workforce. So I we're at the green carpet, right? And I feel like that last point about labor is going to get touched on a little bit here. I'm looking at my clock, and I always say that we do a deep dive in the green carpet, but I feel like we don't get to go too deep into it. I'm hoping soon to bring some guests onto the show so we can actually dialogue a little bit more about this stuff instead of me just monologuing. But I wanted to, so in the green carpet, as I mentioned, I take a deeper dive into brands, concepts, processes that are being called to the proverbial carpet, right? And again, also recognizing that when it comes to sustainable fashion, there are a lot of finger wagging, right? And so I understand people are trying every way that they can, um, everything that they can to get action. But one of the things that I am trying to do is work on calling people in versus calling them out, right? So when you call people out, one of the things that I find is that whether you're calling out an individual, an organization, an entire industry, what have you, I think that number one, it creates barriers, right? Because they are on the defensive, and when you're on the defensive, I think that your ability to have dialogue is absolutely limited. So calling people in doesn't necessarily like give them a pass, right? But you're able to speak about things in a way that allows you to talk about what the potential solutions and alternatives are. And again, I want to thank Professor Loretta Ross from Smith College for introducing this to me and helping me shift my thinking around that, because I think that it's so easy to just get amped up about this and get really pissed, to be perfectly honest, about some of the awful things that are happening in the industry, right? But I don't want to just talk about it, right? I want to be able to be part of the solution. So anyhow, let's get into it. So Amazon, man, these guys, uh, and this is where I consciously have to make an effort around calling people in versus calling people out, right? Um, and before I even go into this, I actually want to like give myself a little clap because I have been working on just making more thoughtful purchases. I've been doing that throughout the pandemic. I have a little sneeze coming. Oh man. I managed to go on mute so you didn't hear that. Look at me navigating this cockpit. All right. So I it's been almost a year since I made a purchase from Amazon. I actually spent some time filling my basket last night because there were a couple of things that I needed that I haven't been able to purchase, and I found myself adding. I think there was probably about like 6 things that I had added to my basket, and I was like, no, like, what do you need this for? Is this an emergency? No, can you buy it local? So in any case, I just wanted to give myself a little clap for that. But in any case, so Amazon warehouse workers in New York have gotten enough support to unionize. So I'm interested um, to see what that actually means. And it kind of oh man, we're gonna put that on snoozy right there. Um, kind of leads me to my next question, which is, again, another question that has been coming up, that I've been seeing a lot on LinkedIn. But I think about, what are the needs around, or what is it that unions provide, right? That non-union work environments don't provide. And again, my next question, and something that has been sort of a reoccurring theme on LinkedIn, is leadership, right? So, um, who do you trust in leadership? That has been, again, a reoccurring theme. And I think that it's really important to talk about this, given that retail is one of the top sectors that is being impacted by the Great Resignation, or the Great Revolt, as some people are calling it. So I'm really curious to hear sort of where the trust lies, right, in the fashion industry as well as in retail. Um, there was a study. Um, there was a recent study by the Edelman's Trust. It's the Edelman's Trust Barometer Survey, and they surveyed 36,000 people and found that most people trust their CEOs, and more than they trust other leaders within the company. And this and also actually includes elected official, nonprofit leaders, and journalists. But thinking about all the levels of leadership within a company, especially within fashion brands and within retail, where does the trust lie? And I'm thinking about putting together a little bit of a survey. I'm genuinely curious about this. I obviously have spent almost my entire life in retail, and I can share that that the trust shifts. It shifts depending on what is happening in the world, what is happening in the company, as well as what's happening within, right? Um, the climates of an individual store, a region, and so on. But trust in leadership is super important and critical to the success of a business. And one of the things that has been discovered through, right, this Great Resignation is that one of the top reasons for people leaving is incompetent leadership, right? Incompetent leadership. Um, and so I think that is something that really needs to get, we need to put some attention on that, and think about how we can affect change in that area, right? And what does leadership development look like throughout an organization? Um, so that's that. Also, kind of on that same theme, a thing that has been coming up a lot since the beginning of the pandemic is the Pay Up campaign, right? And so one of the things that has happened as a result of the Pay Up campaign is it really sort of highlights the difference in values that's placed on various employees, right? So we know that based on what we've been seeing, garment workers are kind of at the bottom of the food chain, for lack of a better term. And one of the brands that was actually being called out was Uniqlo. So Uniqlo has 2,000 Indonesian garment workers who are waiting on a $5.5 million severance pay. This has been going on since 2015. And in the news, Uniqlo actually signed a $300 million deal with Roger Federer, which that happened in 2018. And still, the brand hasn't paid these garment workers. and the brand is actually worth over $9 billion, right? So I really want to be able to see a lot of change in this area. Um, I also want to understand, like, why does that feel like an okay thing to do? Um, and I know that that money motivates a lot of people, but I also feel like sometimes that's like the easy answer. So what does that mean once once you start pulling back the layers? Um, and again, I don't think that we are going to find these answers right in these big spaces, right? Like, I think that there are important conversations that need to be had um, uh, to really dig into that. I'm not sure what the solution is, but I will definitely keep doing my part to highlight some of these issues and where I can affect change, whether it's as a consumer or as a business that offers strategic planning and leadership advising support. Um, I know that one of the things that I have made a decision around in the last year is really to focus more of my efforts around supporting small and medium sized businesses, because this is where I personally feel like the most impact can be made in the industry. So there's that. There is, I feel like I'm back in New York City because I hear a fire truck going by. Hopefully, you guys didn't hear too much of that. But in any case, I wanted to thank everybody for joining. Again, for those who joined us live or for those who are going to be catching the replay, we are out of time. But thank you again for joining. And as a reminder, our mission is to support a more diverse and inclusive, sustainable fashion industry by filling in the leadership and ownership gaps in the apparel supply chain. We will be here next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I hope you guys liked. Well, I hope you guys really enjoyed these slides. So thank you again for joining. Please catch the replay. If you have any topics that you'd like me to cover, please feel free to send me a message. I hope everybody has a great day. Bye.